minute. When I tried to put on the PowerPoint, I couldn't see anybody. So I wanted to introduce ourselves before I shared my screen. So I'm just excited to be here to do this breakout session of disability etiquette. And so I was so grateful that Shannon Faulkner has decided to help me. So we're going to be presenting disability etiquette. We're with Arkansas Rehab Services. I'm Dana Byram, and Shannon is a counselor in my office. And so please don't hesitate to ask questions or stop or interact with us, because we love that, you know. So anytime you have questions, just feel free to jump in there. You can also put questions in the chat box, but we are good with just unmuting and just talking. So we're good with that. Anything else, Shannon, before we start?
No, I just wanted to say good morning and thank you everybody for being here. So.
All right. Well, then I'll go ahead and share my screen. We do have a couple videos, so if there's any technical difficulties, you guys can't hear it, please let me know. I tried to mark it so it would work, so we're gonna try it and see. So let me share my screen and then we will get started. I'm so excited to talk to you guys. Let's see here. Okay, let me make sure. Okay, so this is disability etiquette. And so I do have a video I want to show you right off the bat, just because it's going to give you a preface of pretty much what this training is going to be about, kind of an idea. It's a fun little video that kind of shows maybe exaggerated things that happen, but it's still fun. And so I want to start with a video. Let's see if we can change the screen here. Everyone can hear it? Okay, good.
Good morning, Bob. Morning there, big man. Morning, Alice! There's no need to be awkward.
Poor Bob. Like so many of us, he just doesn't know how to interact with people with disabilities.
It's pretty easy, really. People with disabilities are people first.
We need the same things that every person needs, like respect.
Good morning, everyone.
Attention! Okay. Maybe we need to be more specific.
The easiest way to show respect is to focus on the person, not the disability. It's okay. You'll get the hang of it.
One easy way to focus on the person is to watch the person signing and not their interpreter.
Or their companion.
It's really cool that you'd like to help, but do us both a favor and please ask me first. What you think might be helping?
I got you.
Wait, ah! Oh no, might actually not.
If you'd like to offer me help, let me hold on to your elbow. Don't take mine.
Hey, would you like to take my arm?
Sure.
Assistive devices help us to live our lives. They're really important and really personal.
Grabbing them only makes it weird for everyone.
What? Please only touch our devices and service animals if we've given you permission. And don't take it personally if I ask you not to. Remember that my service animal helps me all the time. Neither of us would like it if we were separated.
Remember, we make our own decisions. We sign documents, vote, volunteer, work, and pay taxes.
We get married.
So don't underestimate me just because I have a great smile.
Just because I'm blind
May I help you?
does not mean I'm deaf.
No, I think so.
Just because I'm deaf doesn't mean I'm blind.
And just because I use a wheelchair doesn't mean that I can't sweep you off your feet.
So take a deep breath. Relax. We don't bite.
Unless we're really hungry.
Hello there, ladies. How are you?
Hello. And if you're not sure what to do, just ask.
Hi, would you still like to see a menu?
No thanks, but can you please read it to me?
Sure, definitely.
Just treat us the way you would want to be treated, and we'll all be okay.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, Alice.
Right.
Awkward no more. Nice job, Bob. Go forth and be human. There's no need to be awkward.
Okay, I hope that video, everyone heard it. Let's see if we can get to the next page here. Nope. Okay, there we go.
All right, there you go.
Perfect. Okay, so did anyone have any questions about that video, or did they like it?
Can they relate to it?
Yeah. Have you seen that out in public?
I have not seen that video, but I really liked that video.
Oh, good. It does have some humor in it, and I like that about it. But yeah, I know that those things do happen. But so today, just so you know, so some of the objectives is understanding the importance of disability etiquette. So as we see in that video, it is important to understand how to behave and how to act towards individuals with disabilities. We also want you to be able to have the ability to utilize disability etiquette. And so we're going to try to hopefully teach you some of those ways and to recognize your own insecurities. I think a lot of these things that we're going to discuss is really just changing yourself and making the realization that some of the uncomfortable social interactions are within ourselves and not the individual.
Exactly. I think when you get more comfortable with yourself, even if you get more comfortable saying to that person that you're not sure what to do, or that you're uncomfortable because it's a new experience, it helps everything go much more smoothly when you're interacting with someone with a disability.
Sorry, I'm having trouble. There it goes. Okay. So Shannon, you're welcome to whichever slide you want to do. You're welcome to do.
All right, well, I'll just talk about this one then. How's that? Okay, so just understanding the terminology a little bit. So just disability refers to a person who has a physical or mental impairment that substantially limits one or more major life activity. And so that could be, their activity could be walking, breathing, talking, the way they learn. It could be a learning disorder. So it's the way they go, the way they are instructed, the way they interact with other people. Inclusion is simply just the act of including people in a group or in an activity. Person first language is putting the person before the diagnosis. So an example of that is not saying that she's a schizophrenic. You would say that she is a person who has schizophrenia or who's living with schizophrenia. Reasonable accommodations are just a modification or adjustment to a job site or to a work site environment so that someone can continue to be at that workplace. And then an accommodation is an adaptation that creates a personal learning environment for an individual by altering instructions, classroom environment, or other materials. And so a lot of people come to us that need assistance with accommodations because they're going to college or they're going into some kind of training program, and they might need accommodations for their classes and for their instruction.
So disability etiquette is, so we've found out some of the terminology of what is disability, but what is disability etiquette? And it's respectful communication and interaction with people who have disabilities. So we have 3 types of communication. We're not going to go and discuss all 3 types. I really kind of wanted to focus on the nonverbal, but there's verbal, nonverbal, and visual. And let's see if I can get that. Whoops. Okay, so when you look at this slide, the way you listen, look, move, and react tells the person you're communicating with whether you care or not. So when I'm on this Zoom meeting, for example, and I can flip through all the people that are watching and listening, if I see you and you're, let's say you're reading a book while I'm presenting, or you're yawning or stretching, to me, I'm going to take that as a nonverbal communication that, okay, you're bored. I'm not doing my job. I'm not keeping you entertained. And so I think whenever we are socializing or working with individuals with disabilities, we have to look at our own facial expressions and our own the way we sit and talk to individuals. So if you're crossing your arms, rolling your eyes, yawning, things like that, that really tells a lot to that person. So some of the nonverbal communications are gestures, facial expressions, body language, appearance, eye contact. And I think anyone who has presented in a conference room knows the nonverbal communication when someone is, bored or tired or ready for the meeting to be over. So we've all been there. And I'm sure even being at a conference like this, you're going to have those moments where you're like, oh my goodness, I'm ready for the next class or something, So we just have to be mindful of those when we're communicating with individuals with disabilities.
Great. So just hit, sorry.
Sorry.
I think we moved forward one, Dana.
Oh, we went too far?
I think so. I think we moved forward actually 2.
Okay. Let me go back here.
Let's see.
There we go.
Yes, there we go. Principles of disability etiquette.
Okay.
So when you're interacting with someone, it did it again.
Oh, I wonder why it's doing that.
I don't know. I think I remember it doing this once before.
Well, I'll just keep it on this page for now.
Okay, that's fine. So just kind of rely on your common sense to guide your interactions with people. If it would be rude for someone to interact with you that way, it's probably rude for you to interact with them. If it would be awkward for you if someone approached you in a certain manner, it would also probably be awkward for someone else. Just behave in a courteous and respectful way like you would with anyone else that you're meeting. People with disabilities, they're people first. And so just like you would interact with anyone else. Offer to shake hands and know that you can use your left hand. Ask someone if they want to shake hands, and all of that's okay. And then treat adults as adults, because just because someone has a disability, sometimes people have a tendency to talk down to them, to talk loudly, to speak more slowly, and just kind of treat them more as children than as adults. And so just because they can't, see the item you're talking about, or, that doesn't mean that they don't understand that the message that you're trying to give them, just because they can't see the slide that you're talking about, it doesn't mean it needs to be explained to them, as if they were younger or less intelligent.
Does anybody have any comments or questions so far? Okay. So moving on. So some essential points. We've already gone over the people first language, but we'll, and inclusion. So ADA, at the end of the slide, I did give the link to the ADA just in case you guys wanted some more information regarding that. Respect, facts versus myths. So how to interact with people with disabilities. And Shannon went over a few of these already. Speak directly to a person with a disability. So I think it's very important when you're communicating with someone, and I think this goes with anyone with or without a disability. If you are having a conversation, but you're looking at someone else or you're waving to a friend as they're trying to communicate with you, it's just disrespectful. We want to make sure that we're giving our full attention to the individual that we're communicating with. put the person first. Don't baby talk. I think, part of our own, just our human nature, I think sometimes we're trying to be sweet, trying to be nice, trying to be accommodating, but it can come off inappropriate and disrespectful. So as Shannon was saying, whenever sometimes you might use baby talk. So if an individual is in a wheelchair and we slightly bend over and we raise the tone of our voice and we're like, hi, oh, you look so good. It's so good to see you. And I think to them, it can be disrespectful and just like they just want you to talk to them, just like you would talk to anybody else. And just ask. I think, we get so insecure about asking because we don't want to bring things up, or we feel like it'll hurt their feelings or be rude to bring certain topics up or questions up. And we'll see in a video here in a minute that really people don't mind questions. Now, I'm not saying not all people mind questions, but for the most part, people just want you to ask if you're curious. A person's mobility equipment, wheelchair or cane. So I think it's very important that we respect these items because they're using that wheelchair to move, to get from A to B. They sit in that chair. They might eat. They might watch movies, and that is part of their body. So it's very important that we don't just try to help them and grab the wheelchair and say, here, let me help you up, or let me help you move to the other side of the room, or let me do this. Because I think grabbing a part of that wheelchair is pretty much just grabbing a hold of, let's say, my arms and helping me walk across the room. So I think we have to be very, very cautious of the equipment that individuals are using. And listening is a skill, but it takes practice, and it is a very hard skill that a lot of people need to practice with a lot. Because I think when we're listening to someone and we're talking and having a conversation, it takes skill to really focus on that person and what they're saying, really pay attention. And I think you can practice that. Let's say being at a conference that you're at now, did you really listen to the topic in the classroom that you were in? Would you be able to ask 2 or 3 questions at the end of that conversation or the end of that presentation because you actually were listening? So I think it takes time to practice the skill so you can really give them the respect that they deserve, or anybody.
Yeah, just to weigh in on that, Dana, I think for a lot of people with it, when it's in small groups or one-on-one conversations, a lot of people, instead of actually listening, what they're doing is waiting to talk. And so they've got a point in their mind that they want to make, and they're just waiting for whoever they're in that conversation with to stop saying what they're saying so that they can go ahead and make that. And when they're doing that, they miss out on a lot of information that they might be getting from that other person or group. Exactly.
And we already went over some of the visible and non-visible disabilities. I want to give you an example, though, because this has happened for individuals that I've been with. Whenever you're going into a parking lot, and I see this a lot, is just because they see someone who is parked in a disability parking spot and they have a placard, but they get out and visibly they see nothing wrong with them. They're walking, they're talking, they don't see that there's anything wrong. But what we have to remember is there are so many non-visible disabilities. You don't know if that person has had cancer before, or diabetes, or high blood pressure, or arthritis. You don't know all the things that they could possibly have. And so for us to make that assumption and say, well, I don't know why that they got a placard when they seem perfectly capable of walking in the store. So I think that comes back to on us, where those are the changes that we need to make for ourselves, and not be so hasty to say, okay, why do you have the placard? So we just need to remember there are visible and non-visible disabilities. And social cues. So many people that we work with, they have not had the opportunities in the past to learn social cues. And so they might not have had the experience of going to public school for years, or going to church or different social functions to gain that knowledge. So if you're working with someone or you're at that conference and you have, let's say, individuals with Down syndromes or intellectual disabilities, sometimes they want to just hug everybody because they're so happy. They come to work, they got their first job, and they want to hug all the employees. They want to hug all the customers. They're very excited. And I think, that's where our training comes in, and we have to say, okay, I love the hugs, but let's try not to hug between 8 and 12, and so I think that's where the training comes in, and also in social interactions, building those interpersonal relationships with people. Sometimes they will bring up inappropriate topics just because they haven't had the experiences that we have had. They haven't been taught the same thing that we have been taught. Any questions about that or experiences you guys have had?
I think a lot of times people who are also maybe on the autism spectrum, those social skills are very difficult for them, and no matter how much they try, that's just sometimes extremely elusive. I interacted with a man, young man, the other day at the Lowe's Garden Center, and it didn't take much talking with him, and you're like, I think he might be on the spectrum. And when he was just so matter of fact, and I loved it. But you can tell that the social situations, were not his forte.
Absolutely. I mean, if they're coming to you and they're just telling you exactly how it is, if they're blunt and, that's just the way it is,
yes.
Then that then either nobody has told him to say, hey, maybe we shouldn't be so honest and blunt. I think it takes patience and time. And once again, it comes back to listening. You're listening to what they say, and then you're going to help. So, all right, let's see here.
Doris, did you have a comment you were wanting to make?
Yeah, I was just going to say you're absolutely correct, especially if they're on the spectrum. My brother-in-law is has autism, and he's 35 now, and we still have to remind him about our personal space. Mm-hmm. And now that we have kids, trying to be nice to them, because he's very upfront to them, and sometimes it can come off as being ugly or rude, but we just kind of have to remind him.
Right.
And we also have to remind our children, once they call him Uncle DK. Once Uncle DK has gotten to that point, you need to make sure that you back away and give him his space.
Absolutely.
But I think you're right too, is you're teaching your children the appropriate way to communicate with Uncle DK. I mean, you're teaching them ahead of time all those things that we're talking about now. So yeah, that's good.
Dana, we've got a comment in the chat box.
Oh, good.
Is it Rochelle Kelly? So this just happened to me this week. One of my students on the autism spectrum brought an inappropriate item to show me at work. Yes.
Yeah, and we know those things will happen. And do you mind telling me what you did or what you told him? Well,
are you there?
Yeah,
we can hear you.
And it wasn't a terrible item. It was just a personal body product that you would use in the bathroom for yourself. So I don't want to talk. I don't want to say what it was, but it was a product. And I just said, well, if you need to use that, keep it in your bag and use it when you need to, but you don't need to show me anymore. It's fine if you need to use that product, but let's not get it out in the classroom and show anybody else. So just use it if you need to and keep it in your bag from now on.
Right. But that's good. I mean, you set the boundaries, you set the rules. And you didn't make him feel like he was completely wrong or embarrassed for bringing it. You just, perfect. Yeah. You just let him know that maybe that wasn't the best appropriate place to bring that item out.
Right. Because with young people on the spectrum, it is what it is. It's like, okay, I use this and here's it. And it's like, there's no thought of keeping that private, really. That it's just a matter of fact, I use this, here it is.
Right. Okay. Any other questions I don't think I see any other ones. Okay, so this is the next video. Whoops, before I push play. I really like this video because you are actually hearing from individuals with disabilities, and they are telling you exactly what they like, what they want, how they want to be treated. And so it's just a good video to watch. So let's see if we can get this to play.
I so often hear people send the message like, thank God that's not me, when they see someone with a disability, or like, thank God that's not me or my kid. And that's sending the message that disability is equal to someone who is less than or broken or incomplete, and that's not the case.
Well, I have cerebral palsy. Affects me pretty much from the hips down, and also just like fine motor control and things like that.
So I have Tourette syndrome, which is a neurological disorder, which means I do movements and noises that I can't control.
I have cerebral palsy, as well as left hemiparesis and nystagmus, which means that my whole left side is weaker than my right.
I have a very aggressive form of lupus, and I have a blood clotting disorder associated with my lupus. And 4 years ago, I had a clot in my foot. And then this happened in over 8 months and 11 surgeries. This was the end.
I love having Tourette's. I love that I'm 4'7". I love my obsessive compulsive disorder. And I think that's the case that many of us have embraced our disabilities.
I've had my disability since I was born, and it's a part of me.
My brain is quick and witty and wildly inappropriate, and it also has Tourette's. And at some point, I decided not to just love parts of my brain. A lot of times I see kids staring at me. That's okay with me.
I welcome it. Kids are curious.
But what I struggle with is when a parent shushes them or quickly pulls them in the other direction.
When a child is hustled away from a person or hushed, it stigmatizes even just asking the question.
Because kids then associate disability with feeling ashamed.
And if they've never seen anything like this before, they're gonna look. And if they have questions, let them ask. There's nothing wrong with that.
So instead, I hope that parents say things like, how cool that we all move differently and walk differently and talk differently, more than just like normalizing disability, but celebrating it. We date. People with disabilities date, and not always other people with disabilities.
Just because I have a disability doesn't mean I have to be paired with somebody with a disability.
Direct message to everyone in my life, but if you're gonna set me up on a blind date, please have more criteria than this guy also has a disability.
Not every single person with a disability is in a wheelchair. I am not in a wheelchair. I've never been in a wheelchair.
If one more person calls me an inspiration after just meeting me, I'm gonna burn your house down.
We aren't inherently inspirational or brave because we are disabled, which is kind of the idea that people think about when they say that.
It's okay to call me an inspiration once you know me or know something about me, but genetics does not make me an inspiration. Let me earn that word.
There are people who are actually doing amazing, brave things out there, whether they have a disability or not.
But it comes across to a disabled person as, wow, I'm so happy that I'm not in your shoes.
I get a lot of strangers trying to help me up the steps by grabbing my arm or my waist or something, and that's extremely inappropriate.
You can say, hey, do you need some help? Rather than just either forcing my chair or ignoring me. It took me a while to actually call myself a person with a disability, but I'm a person first. Being an amputee is secondary.
I'd rather have somebody say I'm a person with a disability rather than being disabled because of the whole control and ownership issue.
I hear differently abled. Ugh, the word is disability.
I used to call myself like differently abled, and some people didn't like that. And I'm just like, but I am different. And they're like, no, you're not. And it took me a while to actually see that I was using very able-bodied terms.
It should be a descriptor, just like I'm right-handed. I have a disability. When we're talking about disabilities, I hear the word that we want to be accommodating, which is great, or we're working on tolerance. Nobody wants to just be tolerated. Like, I tolerated Those 3 years, my sister was learning to play the trombone. I tolerate going to the dentist. None of these things are things I like. They're things I tolerate because I know that I have to deal with. So there's such an important step in communities between opening the door to somebody with a disability and like embracing them and building a community with them in mind.
Okay, I love that video. It's just because they're so straightforward and they just tell you, look, this is it.
And I love where they talk about the kids, because kids are fascinated by people with disabilities, with visible disabilities. And to hear that they're okay with questions, they're okay with having, letting kids ask, because kids are curious and they're going to look.
Absolutely. And we'd already talked about the wheelchair situation, and I think just having them pointed out and that we just, sometimes individuals think of the most severe disabilities. When you see someone who has a disability, you're thinking of the most severe. And as that one lady spoke, she said, I've never been in a wheelchair, even though I've got cerebral palsy. And so I think sometimes we hear things about different disabilities and we just put that into a category that everyone that has that one is the same. And we have to remember that it affects people differently, even if they have the same disability, affects them differently. So do you want me to do this facts and myths, Shannon, or you want?
No, I can do this because I think a lot of these facts and myths were hit on absolutely in the video. So people with disabilities are brave and courageous. And, like the lady in the video said, that's not necessarily true. They're people, and there are a lot of brave and courageous people out there, whether disabled or not. So just because she has a disability doesn't automatically make her brave or courageous. Wheelchair use is confining. I think everybody looks at that and thinks, oh, they can't, but their wheelchairs allow them to do so much that they normally wouldn't maybe not be able to do. So, to them, it's not confining. I've had a client here at ARS before who was a tennis champion, wheelchair tennis champion. So he was definitely not confined. He was out there, doing a lot of things. People with hearing disabilities can read lips, and people who are blind acquire a sixth sense. So we know people who are, not everyone who is blind can read lips. A lot of people can read some lips, but that does not make them proficient in it. And so don't assume that just, if you're looking at them and talking and they're deaf, that they can read your lips.
And I want to say that percentage is like 30% of actual people that can read lips and capture each syllable is like 30%. So it's really low.
Right. People with disabilities are more comfortable with their own kind. So I think the lady in the video hit on that also. People with disabilities date and they have social lives and they have friends, and they don't have to be disabled, or they don't have to have the same disability that everyone you have. Just because you have two people with the same disability doesn't mean that they have anything else in common. And just because someone else has a disability, they can be in a room full of people and they have everything in common. They have the same interests and the same some of the same friends, or they work all at the same place, and so they don't have to have a disability just to be together. Non-disabled people are obligated to take care of people with disabilities. So most people with disabilities do not want to be taken care of. Most people with disabilities want independence. They want their own lives. They don't want to be done for, to have someone doing things for them all the time. That's taking their independence. People with disabilities, like the one lady said in the first video, they get married, they have children, they have their own apartments. They don't want to be taken care of and tended to like their children their whole lives.
And I think to add to that too, is we can't take for granted some of the smallest things that give them that independence. So like for our clients, just getting a driver's license is huge for individuals. Getting a job that's maybe only 5 or 10 hours a week is huge, because it gives them some of that independence back, where people don't have to just take care of them.
Right. Okay, so moving on to the next one is curious children should never ask people about their disabilities. So as you heard in the video, they welcome that. They welcome questions, and because that's a teaching moment for other people, so that They won't be uncomfortable with it and they'll be more familiar. So, when you're teaching children, the thing is to teach them to ask the questions politely, not to not ask the question at all. And then most people with disabilities cannot have sexual relationships. And we know that just simply isn't true. They want significant others and they want relationships in their lives.
Any questions about any of that?
I think we're good.
Okay. So here is just the link for the Americans with Disabilities Act. I just wanted to share that because some people just like to go on there and check out some information that we just don't have time to share in this presentation. So I'll just leave that with you guys. And then what employers need to know. So just some information for employers. So we've talked about how to communicate with individuals with disabilities and how to socialize and being at work, but we really haven't talked about when you're hiring individuals with disabilities. And so we have to look at the undue hardship. And, when we have an individual that needs accommodations, I think what employers sometimes are scared of is that the cost of the accommodation. And what we have to remember is most accommodations are about $500 or less. So anything more than that, if it creates a hardship on the employer, then we don't we wouldn't want the employer to have to do that. But usually with accommodations, more than one person can take advantage of that. Always have your emergency evacuation procedures. I know that we used to work with a lady that needed help when we had fire drills or tornado drills. And she had a prosthetic. And so we actually had to carry her out in emergency situations. So it always have those set in place because you never know when an emergency is going to happen. And we want to make sure we take care of everybody. How to manage conflicts related to disability. I think part of this goes back to those social cues and goes back to different situations. But I think you have to know who you're talking to manage that conflict. You have to know what the situation was, why it happened, and what their disability. I mean, even if you don't know exactly what their disability is, I think just by communicating with an individual, you're going to know if they tend to not have the social cues like we do, tend to say inappropriate things, tend to hug or want to be close to people and not give them their personal space. And so I think that's when we need to set those barriers and we can manage that conflict by setting those rules. How do I say that? But in a manner that's not keeping them from enjoying the work. We don't want to deter them from working. How to act around service animals. So we have an individual that has a service animal and we love that service animal. It's wonderful. I love working with him, but we know that when she's on duty and we can't touch her. We can't, we can say, hey, but we don't pet her. We don't act like she's just a, regular dog. There is a difference. She has little breaks that she gets to take and then she can act like her normal self. So always be mindful of when they are actually working and on duty. Confidentiality. So I think for employers, this is very important because if you know what a person's disability is, you do not want to tell everyone what that person's disability is. I know that we have had this conversation with employers before. They're like, oh, it'd be so much easier if I could just tell people so that we would all be on the same page. We would all know what the disability is and we could all work together to make it work. Well, yeah, it might be easier for you guys, but you're disclosing something that is personal and private of that person, and they might not want to share that information with you. So what you would have to do is find other ways to make it work without sharing that confidential information. And I think we've had this conversation with, I can't remember the company, Shannon, but we talked about how we had to post signs about how,
Right.
we posted signs up, we did different things around the office to improve the teamwork and improve the safety without having to disclose the disability. Different needs people with disabilities may need in the workplace. Once again, this kind of goes back to that. If you know that person if that employee has come to you and says, I need this accommodation, this would help. So that's when you start looking at accommodations, you start looking at things that you can improve around the workplace, create teams and create those teams that have those creative ideas. It says, hey, don't make the focus about that one person, make the focus about improving the company, make the focus about, hey, what can we do to move up with the times and be a more safe and productive workplace. Let's see. Okay, so here's some of the resources that we used. Whoops. I don't know why it's doing that. There's some of the resources that we used. So please feel free to check those out. They're all really good. They all have really good information on them. Does anybody have any questions for us? Let me get out of this real quick. Okay. I see something. Okay.
Oh, Dakota says universal design. We're talking about making accommodations in the workplace. Yes.
Absolutely, because it doesn't have to be for one person. I can get someone an ergonomic keyboard or an ergonomic or standing desk or anything like that, and more than one person can use it. So not everything has to be just for one person. Technology is helpful for everybody. Anybody have anything else? Well, I'm not sure how long we were supposed to go, but I appreciate you guys listening to us. Hopefully it was helpful and insightful.
I think it was very helpful.
Good. Well, good. Well, we just appreciate the opportunity to talk to you guys, and I hope you guys are enjoying the conference. Oh, let's see. So what did Dakota say? I really like the comment about children since I have a curious 3-year-old.
Right.
Yep. Oh, good.
Yes.
Well, I appreciate the comments. I hope you enjoyed it. And so please don't hesitate to email me if you want. I can put our emails in the chat box. We're with Arkansas Rehab Services. Let's see here. Shannon, do you want to put your email in the chat box?
Absolutely. Here.
Okay. Oh, whoops. I think I sent that accidentally to just you, Teresa. Hold on just a second.
Okay, mine's sent. Okay, there's mine. Hopefully you can see that.
I was going to say, I'm going to get the survey link and put it in the chat box. Just give me 1 second. I'm going to copy and paste it over.
Okay.
Great.
Well, thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day.
No, we appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Of course.
Absolutely.
So, Teresa, do we need to stay on for the survey or are we good to go?
Oh, it's up to you guys. I mean, I'm just going to copy and paste. So, I mean, if you guys got something else you can do, you can definitely just leave the meeting, and I'm just going to put it in the box right now. Let me copy it.
Okay.
I try to type it out on the last one. I didn't copy it correctly, so I find it's just going to be easier for me to copy and paste it.
Oh yeah.
Let's see. Now, if I can get it in the chat. There, yay. Sometimes technology is my friend, sometimes it is not. But there is the link for everyone to go to for the Survey Monkey. And thank y'all so much. That was very informative and very good information because, now we are having more clients. We're seeing a lot more clients on the spectrum. So it gives us an idea of what needs to be said and done as well.
Perfect. Well, good. Well, we just appreciate you guys, and I hope you guys have a great day.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.